Oh, you are live. Wonderful. Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of Chatting with Nuts. This is episode 4, which I think now makes this a thing. I think it's officially a thing.
It's official.
When you hit 4, it's a big deal. And I'm excited because episode 4 is featuring one of the most enthusiastic and authentic booktubers I know. And Lezlie, well, introduce yourself. Introduce yourself.
What up, nerds? My name is Lezlie Smith, and I have a little channel called The Nerdy Narrative, and I read tons of genres, and I love to run my mouth about books.
And we love to listen, to be honest with you. Lezlie is one of a kind when it comes to the shot that she presents herself in, and also the content that she provides and her thoughts. I always really enjoy whenever you have read a book that I've read, or if it's a book I'm prospecting to read, which Red Rising would be one of those books. And to hear you get fired up gets me fired up. And I feel like you're very enthusiastic, and it doesn't ever come across hyperbolic to me. It's very authentic. And that's why I chose those words specifically for your intro. But yeah, you have to have one of the most aesthetic shots ever. And you were telling me beforehand that's maybe not necessarily of your doing. Is that true?
It's not. It's 100% my husband. Anytime I do any kind of change to what I'm doing, he sets it up for me. He's had me rearrange my bookshelves about 5 different times. And he just always makes sure that my shots are lined up. Whenever I have a different idea for a video, I always run it by him. He's not a reader, and even if he doesn't get my vision, I can describe it enough that he understands what I'm trying to do, because he feels like he shares in my success. When I am proud of something I put on my channel, he is as well, and he wants to make sure it looks as good as I want it to, and he's able to do the technical part of stuff.
I think that's excellent. My wife reads a little bit, but if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be able to get the motivation to do my videos, because she helps me out quite a bit whenever I'm doing setup and stuff like that. So I can kind of relate when it comes to the duo attack on the booktube channel. So that's pretty cool. I remember you doing a tag, and I really liked the video. It was like, do I have this book on my bookshelf? And I thought you both had very good chemistry on screen, and it was just a real joy to watch.
We have known each other since 2003. We've been together just over 11 years. We were best friends for about 2.5 years before that, and then just pals and acquaintances for another 5 or so years before that. So we've known each other forever. We were best pals before we dated, and so it's so phenomenal because we can flip between being a married couple, and best friends. And cool. To get to hang out with your best friend all the time, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Now my question is, you've been together a while. Yeah. How have you not convinced him to start reading some fantasy? I mean, we have so many great books.
It's not for lack of trying. And I was so excited because he did get the Dresden Files on audiobook.
Okay.
But he didn't make it past the first one.
No.
Yeah, so he loves to do things. He's a multitasker. He'll have a show playing on one screen. He's playing a video game on another screen, and he's over here working on another screen. And I'm like, you can't listen to a book and do all these other things. He's like, I'm just supposed to sit in one spot.
I kind of can relate to that. I feel like I can do something for about an hour, and then I got to change. But now, instead of I just switch to audiobook. That's the trick.
If I need to change, I just switch books. I usually have 4 to 5 books going at a time, different genres. Well, so I am a creature of habit. First thing in the morning, I get up, make a cup of coffee, and that's when I read my comic or my manga. And I'm working through Green Lantern right now.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw it on your.
And then just depending on how many issues I get sucked into then I'll usually spend an hour reading something else. And it's very quiet in the house because Chris and the pups are still asleep. So whatever my most complex read is, like if I'm in one of my Malazan books, that's the time I'll read it. Mm-hmm. And then, I walk the pups, go on about my day. And then in the afternoon, with my afternoon cup of coffee, I'll pick up either my sci-fi or my horror
Okay.
during the day. I can only read horror during the day.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would read it at night because I read.
Yeah, no.
I read Stephen King at night.
I've had bad things happen. If I read it at night, I will have nightmares because horror always has freaking spiders in it, or a jump scare, and no.
Hey, it's good to know.
I end my night on fantasy.
That's good. I like that. It's good
That's
to know.
the world I want to live in is fantasy.
Yeah. Well, depending on the world, right?
Yeah.
That's actually one thing I when I was thinking about bringing you on and talking, one thing I get at your channel that I don't get at a lot of others that I follow, because I am predominantly fantasy and I like that. I'm going to, be that way for the rest of my life, I think. But you read a lot of different stuff. You read manga, you read horror, you read sci-fi, fantasy, and other stuff that's combined in there. So my question for you is that because you just enjoy having a multitude of genres, or is it because maybe you feel like, do you ever get burnt out on one and then want to pop to the other?
No.
Okay.
No, because I read so many different ones. I never have two of the same going. But here's what happened. I used to read science fiction and fantasy. That was it.
Yes.
Well, recently I've skipped genres over the years, but that right now, that's what my main thing was. Well, then along came booktube. And I started making friends on other channels that read things differently than me because I love people who are different than me. Whatever makes you different from me is usually what attracts me to you. And so I started watching all of these channels and making friends, literary fiction, nonfiction, classics. And so just to connect with my friends, I started dabbling in books that they really got passionate about.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And not only that, a lot of the classics and literary fiction authors were who my current authors looked up to and used for inspiration. One of my horror books that I read recently mentioned Vonnegut and Slaughterhouse-Five. I had literally just read that book 2 weeks prior. So that just enhanced my reading experience, which I'm all about. And I was like, I messaged the author. I'm like, oh, I get this. I get what you're doing here. So you just don't realize how many different genres our favorite authors in fantasy were influenced by.
Yeah.
And when you get to make that connection, it's just like in the Cosmere. All of the connections you make throughout this series, it's just like that. Yeah,
I actually like that you say that because so I don't read a lot of it's the Fantasy Network here, so I've limited myself with the name. No, I read a lot of fantasy, but I love finding out who influenced my favorite authors. Joe Abercrombie, it's so funny when you go through First Law and then you hear Joe Abercrombie talk about what made an impact on him. Westerns, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, right? Obviously,
I love that movie.
Yeah, and then he, Red Country is a Western, and there was other. He had like some sort of French War book, like a nonfiction book, and he said it helped inspire. I think it was The Heroes. I might be wrong on that one. I'd have to double check, but it's just like hearing him talk about things that had nothing to do with fantasy, but then he took that and then applied it. It's just like George R. R. Martin's hugely majorly influenced by Tolkien, obviously, but also Tad Williams, and you can see a lot of parallels with that writing, but also H.P. Lovecraft, and then the War of the Roses, which was a real event in English history. And it's really, really cool to see those things blend in and become a part of the genre that we love. So I'm really with you there. I think it kind of helps broaden your appreciation for what the intent of the author was, which is really cool.
I'm like 60 pages from the end of the First Law trilogy. I'm going to finish that when we get off here tonight.
Yeah, I saw it. So tomorrow on Leslie's channel, The Nerdy Narrative.
Sunday.
Yes.
Sunday.
Sunday. I apologize. Sunday. I keep thinking it's May 1st. It's April 30th. Yeah. I still have time to shoot a wrap-up video. Lezlie will be doing a live discussion. Now, is it for the whole trilogy or just Last Argument of Kings?
It's for the whole trilogy.
Okay.
But we're also going to talk about the Last Argument of Kings. It's a read-along. We had a live stream for the first 2 on the other channels. And so we're going to wrap it up on mine. So it should be a good time.
So how are you feeling going into the last 60 or so pages of First Law?
I'm a little concerned because I've just uncovered a lot of things. Found out without spoiling it for anybody. I have found out who was truly behind the Valent and Balk Bank. I was extremely shocked by that. West, who I could not stand at the beginning, I have fallen in love with.
Yeah.
And let's just say his hair's coming out.
Yeah. But you would say you're enjoying First Law.
Oh man.
Right.
I love this series
Yeah.
for just weird reasons. The Blade itself just cracked me up.
Yeah.
I just felt like Jerry Abercrombie took all of the fantasy tropes and poked fun at them.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be mad about it. I absolutely thought it was hysterical. I laughed the whole way through that book.
Yeah, I think his humor is one of his best pieces, one of his sharpest blades, for sure.
It was so refreshing. I just cracked up laughing. Before They're Hanged was more about the story for me.
Mm-hmm.
But Last Argument of Kings, we've got a great blend of that humor and plot.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I might be mad when it's over. I think I'm going to be mad when it's over.
I think that Last Argument of Kings was kind of Abercrombie's like really like level up. Like that was like, it's like, okay, he finished this. What's next? And you'll see how it goes. He balances the grim aspects so well with humor. And I love Joe Abercrombie's writing. I love how like short and pointed it is. And then whenever there is a description, it feels necessary. You're not going to get a lot of flowery stuff with him, but it's still less straightforward than a lot of.
For that.
That's right. Robin Hobb is I keep bouncing back and forth between my favorite prose, and it's always between Tad Williams and Robin Hobb. But you know what? Recently, I just finished up Live Ship Traders Trilogy this month, and I think Robin Hobb is my favorite prose of any author because she's so readable.
Yeah. She's
so
definitely she has got the seat at the head of the table for fantasy, all-time favorite fantasy authors.
Yeah. Yeah, and gosh, I actually feel like Robin Hobb and Joe Abercrombie, I've said this before, but Joe Abercrombie and Robin Hobb have a lot more in common than people realize. Obviously, their prose is different, but like the way they deliver the gut punches, very similar. I would be shocked if he wasn't a fan of Robin Hobb. I'll have to ask him when I have him on the channel one day.
I will be watching.
Yeah, Abercrombie is hilarious, and sometimes his humor builds on prior events too, so it rewards paying attention in addition to the dry wit of it. I completely agree. I feel like everything is on purpose in First Law, and they're not super long books, right?
No, and they're very easy to consume. And what this trilogy also did for me as far as reading enjoyment, it finally helped me get into the immersion reading. I've tried so hard to get into audiobooks. Yeah. And I just would never calm down enough to train myself to pay attention, to listen and retain. But I got the audiobook for the first one just to try to catch up to the read along. And Stephen Pacey is amazing. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. And so I would listen when I couldn't read physically. And then I finally started working towards listening and reading at the same time because his voices, I had to have his voices when reading these characters. Yeah. And so I'm going to be just as sad when this trilogy is over to leave Stephen Pacey behind as I am the characters in the First Law world. So
do you plan on doing what people refer to as the standalone novels before you jump in the Age of Madness?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good. Because I was going to recommend it.
Yeah. I actually had another author comment earlier today and was like, hey, I see you have that other series.
That's what I saw too.
It's like, I think it would behoove you to read the standalones for some familiar faces. And I was like,
yes.
All right.
Yes.
All
and
right.
very key world transition points, which I think are some of the best. It's really funny because last week I had on Alex, and Alex he just wrapped up First Law, and now you're wrapped up First Law. I mean, this is amazing. And then the week before that, I had Christian from Lost in Discovery, a great friend of the channel, and he had just finished up First Law.
Yep.
Me and him actually did a video why you should read First Law, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, I saw your wrap up video, and I saw that you had the 2 first books. I was like, oh, she has to read the standalones. I think you could skip Sharp Ends though if you want. Sharp Ends is the only one that.
Nothing, sir. I'm skipping nothing.
You're a hero.
I'm a completionist.
Yes, yeah. You know, I'm the same way. And with Abercrombie, like the more I can read of him, the happier I'm going to be. He's definitely my cherry on top author, or my slump breaker, as I like to call him, without a doubt. Because it's not hard to read, but it's still very satisfying when you get through his stuff. And it's just, I love it. I really do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't wait to reread this series. I'm not even done with it the first time, and I already can't wait to reread it.
Dude, I've been thinking the same thing. So I've read all 9 books, and I read them all last year. And obviously the 3rd book of Age Madness is coming out this year. I'm thinking about rereading the first trilogy. I probably won't do the standalones if I do a reread this time, just to I got other stuff I'm trying to read for the first time. I'm definitely reading Age of Madness again. Like I'm definitely reading Little Hatred and Trouble with Peace for sure again. But I've been itching, like watching you and then Christian and Alex and all these people are reading First Law, and I'm like, I feel like I'm missing out. Yeah. There's something special about reading with other people.
When you I'm a huge rereader. A lot of people say there's too many books they want to reread. But when I get attached to a world, I like to go back and visit my friends. It's just like going and visiting your family. I like to go back to these worlds and just experience. And I always miss stuff the first time.
Oh,
I'll read something that gets my blood pumping. I'm very excited. There's a battle. There's just a lot going on. I never fail to miss something because I'm so excited or concerned for a character that I'll miss something important from another character. So,
what series have you reread the most?
That would have to be the Wheel of Time series.
Oh, I actually, so, I was going to ask you about this because, the big news of this week, there was 2, right? Shadow and Bone came out on Netflix, and then we got the teaser for Wheel of Time. And we'll get the Shadow and Bone for sure, because I know you're reading it right now as well.
I'm so trash for that series.
How did you feel about the teaser for Wheel of Time?
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
Nope. I am literally just waiting for the show to hit. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what, that is fair because there's only so many 6-second clips we can get. I mean, it's great. I'm not downing on it, but I am at that kind of point where I'm like, maybe I'll just wait till there's a trailer. Like I'd like to see a trailer, and I get it. These things take time. We want them to do a good job. But I'm actually not shocked that you didn't watch it now that I really sit down and think about it.
I'm not too big on watching trailers. Like I know the show's coming out. I watched the very first one and I'm like, heck yes, I'm in. Right.
Yeah.
And now I'm just waiting for it because it's like, when is it coming out? When is it coming out? And pandemic and pushback.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I'm tired of getting hyped up and then disappointed. So I'm just waiting for somebody to be like, oh, hey, I watched the first episode of Wheel of Time today. And then I'm going to go binge.
Let's go.
And I want to reread Wheel of Time again. And I actually did read Eye of the World again last year. And I want to read it again, but I'm going to wait and watch the show. Because if I have the series fresh in my mind and watch the show, I'm a book snob. It's going to piss me off. There's going to be something about it that's going to hack me off. And then I'm just going to be over there, pouting.
Well, actually, that's not how it was in the... you have to do that.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I do. My husband's like, I can't stand going to watch something with you that you've read the book and you loved it.
It depends. A lot of people give Lord of the Rings a lot of crap for the things they cut.
Oh, that was just beautiful.
And for me, it just depends. It depends on what the cut is. It depends on how much it... I mean, without a doubt, Wheel of Time show is gonna piss somebody off, right? There's no way. There's too many characters. People get attacked. Ingtar is one of my friend's favorite characters, and if they cut or mess him up, rip, like they're done.
Well, they passed the first test. I think physically they cast the characters very, very well.
Yeah, the cast
is
exciting.
That's a deal for me because I'm a very visual reader. I picture it's like a movie playing out in my mind when I read.
Yeah,
and when they don't look how I feel like they should, that is like strike number one.
So
I'm already like,
So you're a visual reader then, like you
Mhm.
imagine. See, it depends
That's
on
why
the
I don't
author.
read horror at night.
I guess that does actually end up, becoming a problem. I said this last week, and some people identified with this, which I thought was cool. I actually am not a very imaginative reader unless if the author is very vague, like Stephen King. Stephen King,
Mhm.
for whatever reason, I can like draw up everything in my head. But if you give me, like, for instance, actually, Wheel of Time. I have a lot of trouble with Wheel of Time. I can't imagine stuff. I do think the cast, like when I think about it, I think it all makes sense. I really, really like the cast.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm not. I wish I was more of a visual reader. I really do, because I feel like I miss out on stuff sometimes because of it. But it comes and goes with the author, to be honest.
Yeah.
But so Wheel of Time. So I'm in book. I just finished book 5 this month. I have no idea when I'll read Lord of Chaos. But it's funny because you were talking about the immersive reading experience. I got through almost all the Wheel of Time. So I had my second vaccine and I was down for 4 days. Like I had it way worse than anyone I know.
I'm getting mine next week.
I was
I'm nervous.
down for the count, like for 4 days. I had some just terrible, days there. But what I did do is I was listening to the Wheel of Time like 6 to 11 hours a day. So
Wow.
yeah, it was crazy. And it's weird because a lot of people, and I saw people talking about in the chat, Malazan audiobook. I have a lot of trouble. I should say I used to have a lot of trouble retaining the knowledge that I get from an audiobook. But you know what? Lately, I have been on it. And I've actually been going to the audiobook. Like I just started Grievar's Blood, which is book 2 in the combat codes. And I actually ended up picking up the audiobook and I've been listening to the audiobook more than reading. Like, what's going on with me?
Well, I do it in small chunks because I'm also a big time note taker.
Oh, are you?
And
Okay.
yeah, I have a little thing of sticky notes that I carry around with my books. I have a notebook that I've always got. I love to make notes. I will mark quotes or just a passage that evokes a feeling, and so that's the thing about retaining audiobooks. I'll listen to an audiobook when I'm cleaning house. And I just have my notebook in a central location of where I'm going to pass by wherever I'm at. So I can just scribble something down, go back and mark this quote on, in this chapter or something like that.
So you don't even use the phone. You do straight pen and paper.
I am so old fashioned. I
like
pen
it.
and paper.
That's cool. That's really cool. If my handwriting wasn't so terrible and I didn't have carpal tunnel, I'd consider it.
Well, and I keep all that. I'm such a weirdo. So I keep a plastic box, and every year I put everything that I do, mementos from it in that box for the year. So when I'm 80 and bored, I can just pull down a box. What did I do in 2021? Oh, here's all the notes from the books I read.
That's actually really cool. That's really, really cool.
Weird.
It's like a time capsule that's not buried and for yourself.
Yep.
How interesting. So with those boxes that you do for each year, do you put like monumental book quotes and stuff?
Oh yeah. Like all
awesome.
of my notebooks, like notes for streams and videos, all of that will go in there for the year.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. I like that idea quite a bit. I'm not a note taker per se, but I'll take bullet points when I'm reading through books because there's things that like will absolutely. I used to do this all the time. I used to go, oh, I'll remember this for sure. Like I trusted myself, you know what I mean? And then how many times do you forget? I mean, every time. At least me. I've had too many hits to the head, but I do bullet points. I do bullet points of things that the author has executed that I really like, so I can relay that in my reviews. Like that. That's really the only notes I take.
Yeah, I do fragments, just whatever I can capture, because I'm just, I'm a very emotional speaker, and whatever emotion that the book evokes for me, to recapture it when I'm telling people about it, I'll just write that little fragment down.
Yeah, that's I actually agree with you because I really like to do an emotional, like really analyze those moments, right? And that's why if a book makes me feel something, whether it's anger, sadness, happiness, whatever, grief, if a book can evoke a genuine emotion out of me, it is going to be damn hard for me not to give it 4.5, 5 stars, like immediately. And I'm talking about like a genuine response, right?
Yeah.
I was just watching. Yeah, I was watching you talking about Morningstar in Red Rising, and you said the book made you cry twice, one from being mad and then one from being, I believe, crushed. And to me, So Red Rising is like a series that I am ready for. Like I'm
Oh,
ready to get to it. And
it's
I loved hearing that. That immediately told me like Red Rising is going to be a massive hit with me.
it it was such an unexpected hit for me. I don't even know. It's one of my top favorite science fiction. Like it to
Really?
me, it is right there on par with The Expanse, but in a different way. Like
Yeah.
The Expanse, I love. I love how intricate it is, but it's
Mhm.
explained in an understandable way. And I love the TV show, and I've watched all the
Yeah.
TV show.
Same.
And to me, watching the TV show helped me get through the books better because I
Agreed.
understood the Belter dialect right
Yeah.
away. Like, but oh man, Red Rising is one I'll probably reread every year.
Yeah.
Every year.
You know, it's funny because you say it's different, and I agree with that because every time I ask somebody like about Red Rising that has read it and has enjoyed it, it's always like they don't really. It is sci-fi, but like they put it in its own category, which for me is like immediately a like, oh, that's important. Like it stands out on its own, and I think that's those kind of series are the ones that I want to bump up to the top of my TBR.
Yeah, I cannot wait. When do you think you're going to get to that?
So it's funny you say that. So everyone that follows me now knows I'm reading through Realm of the Elderlings and Dark Tower. Those are the two things I'm doing. Yeah. As soon as I'm done with one, I'm jumping into Red Rising, and I'm going to do every book Red Rising has. So I keep pushing Malazan back. It's not because I don't want to read Malazan, but it's because I don't want to be distracted when I read Malazan.
Yes.
And Red Rising, without a doubt,
you're going to binge them.
It's the number one series that like I haven't read. Like, actually, I was going to ask you this question, so I guess I'll answer it. The number one series I haven't read that I'm not currently in that I want to read is Red Rising. Like the more and more I read about it and hear about it, and I've been super careful because I actually don't even like expectation spoilers to a degree, right? I can tell it's just going to be absolute, gasoline 10 out of 10 for me, and I'm just so pumped about that.
Well, you and I have a lot of really series that we really love in common, so I feel you're gonna but I went into it, I thought it was overhyped for sure. I listened to some other people how they described it, and to me I didn't get, like, a lot of people were like, oh, it's like the Hunger Games. I see where they got that, but it totally detracts to a completely different. But you'll finish the first book in 2 days max.
Yeah, I have the first on my shelf, and I stopped because I said if I love this series, I'm getting the special editions or whatever they have that it looks cool, right?
Oh man, just the hardback, just the regular hardback.
So cool.
They're beautiful. They're so simplistic, but they are absolutely gorgeous, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Have you read Poppy War, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I know they're different, but so the Poppy War is a very good series, a great series. In fact, I actually think book 2 and 3 are like phenomenal. But book 1 was a little too fast for me. Do you feel like Red Rising's pacing is on that level? Or
so Red Rising, perfect pace.
Okay.
Perfect pace. Golden Sun was a little bit fast for me. There was so much happening that I couldn't wrap my head around before the next big thing was happening.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but it was still good. It was really a great book.
Okay.
But Morningstar was like perfect. It took the pacing from the first one and the action from the second one and had a very nice balance between the two.
Nice.
But yeah, I knew in the first chapter that was going to be a 5-star read for me. And
wow.
It was very true. Very true.
Yeah. And see, I don't mind a lot of things happening at once. My problem with Poppy War, book 1 of Poppy War, was we literally skipped months in paragraphs. And I was just like, okay, and that's fine. It's her decision. She could do whatever she wants. But for me, I was like, man, I really would have liked to see a little bit of this more of this academy stuff. Little did we know it really wasn't an academy fantasy. It was a lot more than that. And then I thought book 2's pacing and book 3. I mean, those are some of the best books I read last year, and I've recommended them to numerous amounts of people who aren't necessarily big fantasy fans that are really enjoying them as well. So I was kind of curious because I always hear Red Rising super fast paced, and I was wondering how it compared to that. So I mean that all sounds like it checks out with me.
Yeah.
I'm
Poppy War was a surprise. I knew nothing about the Poppy War when I went into it. Had no idea. I mean, I assumed from the title what it was going to be about.
Yeah.
I had no idea there was going to be magic and shamanism and all of that fun stuff in there. Boy, was I surprised.
I mean, one of the best magic systems in fantasy. I really believe that. I don't. It's weird because everyone talks. I mean, it is ridiculously grim, right? Ridiculously grim. But that's all it gets talked about, I feel like, and we should really talk more about the magic because there is a price to the magic, which is a necessity for me, and also
that's not something that's always explored. And I really appreciated that I loved that aspect. Actually, it just made it so much more interesting for me.
Way more nuanced, and then like the one thing that was kind of weird was like the power creep, and then like what to expect from certain characters that finally come about, and then it was a little bit subverted in books. It's hard to say without spoilers, right? But there was just really weird things that happened with the magic system throughout the whole series. Maybe some of it I could have changed a little bit, but without a doubt, just the setup and the execution of the magic, I thought it was really interesting. It was, I wouldn't say it was super or duper original. Like I've seen other things like that, but it was so well done. Like it felt familiar, but fresh. And I always say that about John Gwen too, but that was my favorite thing about the Poppy War trilogy was the magic.
Yes. That's what cemented my love for it. I was like, wait a minute. Shamanism? What? Like I'm in for this.
Yeah. Really cool. Absolutely loved it. And you know, we're talking about an Asian inspired fantasy. You read Sword of Kaigen, right?
Oh my word.
I knew you did. Yeah. Tremendous. Tremendous.
That book was absolutely astounding.
And this is what was going through my mind. So before we went live, folks, to give you an idea, me and Lezlie were just kind of talking about, what we like reading, why we're here, these type of things. And Lezlie, I'll kind of give your spiel because we talked about like why it's important to support indie authors, and I really liked your message.
Yeah, so independent authors, they are a huge love for me. They're such an untapped resource, and Stephen King did not become a national bestseller straight out the gate. Yeah. And it's just independent authors that self-publish, they don't have the money to get all the things that come with these big publishing companies. But what they do get, the freedom to write their story as they want to write it. Now, I'm not saying that every one of them that puts out a story is great and wonderful. No, but that's where we get to come in by reading their work and giving them feedback. We're able to help them hone their craft. I don't know many people whose Stephen Erickson's debut novel was amazing. But there's not many authors that their first piece of work they put out is just well loved and well received.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. But reading independent authors is rewarding for the author as it is for me. Books are my treasures. These authors are celebrities to me. If I love your work, I don't care if you are a mainstream published author or if you're a self-published author. You reach celebrity status with me, and independent authors I get to interact with. And a lot of them have become friends of mine, and we recommend books to each other, and it's just wonderful. But to provide feedback, and then I get to interact with someone to me who is larger than life, someone who writes a world that I get to visit whenever I want to. Whenever I want to go back, I just pick up that book and go back to that world with the characters that I love, that I relate to, that means something to me. When I read a book, whatever is happening in my life also gets tied to that book.
Absolutely.
And, it's like hearing a favorite song back from when you were in high school, when you had like your first kiss. It takes you back when you hear it, this what you were doing and the smell and all of that. Books do that for me. And so I just love my indie authors. There are
Yeah.
so many amazing authors out there.
It's a realm untapped. And
Mhm.
you know, Petrick recommended Sword of Kaigen to me. He said, because I said, you know, I want to try indie author. I had never read indie anything, to be honest. So I went to him. I said, yo, Petrick, you got the goods. What should I do to knock my socks? He said, read Sword of Kaigen. It's the best standalone ever. And I said, okay, I'll try it.
Mhm.
And I was still kind of skeptical. And I got Sword of Kaigen on Amazon Prime Reading. It was free on Prime. So I read it for free.
Mhm.
I ordered the paperback.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get my wife to read it because it has a little bit of that Avatar Last Airbender feel.
Oh,
You know, but I shouldn't discount it because of that, because it is one of the most original pieces of fantasy I've read. And it just
Mhm.
absolutely blew me away, from the structure of the story to where the climaxes happen, and the
yes.
way the narrative is handled post
Oh,
mid book is just,
oh my gosh, though. I've got chills
I love it.
because
Misaki.
the Basaki, Takuro, I hated her husband.
Oh my God.
And just the ending of that book and a certain duel between characters, I didn't want what happened to happen, but the way M.L. Wong wrote that scene, those chapters, I mean, that I will never forget how that made me feel. Something I didn't want, I was against. I'm like, please
Yeah.
don't go this route. And she went there, and it was
And she did it.
beautiful. It
Yeah,
was so beautiful.
she took a lot of risks with her story.
Mhm.
And I'll be honest, even there's like a subplot in the book that a lot of people don't like.
Yeah.
It is my least favorite part of the book, but I still loved it. And like, that is the best thing I could say, right? Is when my least favorite part of the book is still great. Sword of Kaigen completely revolutionized the way I look at indie fantasy, and seeing other people who read. I mean, Petrick is one of the best resources to find. If you're watching this right now and you want more indie authors, you have Lezlie right here, who has probably read more indie fantasy than probably 100 times more than I have. And also Petrick Leo, the two amazing resources. I just feel like indie fantasy, there's just like an untapped realm where you can go. Like, if you're tired of the King's Killer, if you're tired of the Wheel of Time, if you're tired of Song of Ice and Fire, like, there's a whole world of talented authors that have a story to tell. And it's really exciting to dive into that. And yes, you are taking a risk, but I'll be honest with you, I've taken risks with fantasy series that a lot of people say are some of the best of all time that I did not gel with. And that's fine, right?
The
But
Gentlemen Bastards.
yes, and with the resources that we have in 2021, you will be able to tell if a book is generally going to be for you or not. Hopefully. Now, I will say with indie books, it's a little harder because there's not as many resources, but I think you could take steps to go watch Leslie's channel, to go watch Petrick's channel, and to get to that point of knowing whether a book's for you or not. It's something I hope to do more in 2022, is read a lot more indie. You know, I'm reading the Combat Codes book 2 right now, and the level
I'm so
up.
happy.
Yeah,
I was so
Combat Codes
happy
is
when I
fun.
saw you review that one.
Yeah, it was
The
great.
first, yeah.
The first one was fun. The second one, so I'm only one chapter in, but the chapters are very long. I think it's like the first chapter is like 35 pages. It's a very short book. It's like 300 pages.
Why do they do such long chapters?
They kill me. And then I can't find where I was on Audible. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, geez. But man, the level of from Alexander Darwin from book 1 to book 2 already, I'm so impressed with his writing. I'm so impressed with how much he's improved. And book 3 comes out, you know, and this is just a series. Like, am I going to say Combat Codes is better than Wheel of Time? Absolutely not. Am I going to say Combat Codes has made a unique impression in my brain and I will remember the story? Absolutely. And that's all I'm asking for, right? It's some fresh stories that stick with me after. So, I think it's exciting. It's very, very exciting to talk about indie authors. And if you have not read Sword of Kaigen, what are you doing?
Oh my gosh.
What are you doing?
I mean,
Misaki is one of the best protagonists of all time.
she is the best female protagonist of all time.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Joanna says that we need more books from Emma Wang. Yes. So
originally, the Sword of Kaigen was supposed to be a series.
Yes.
And then she decided not to go through. But she still could. I'm hoping she changes her mind.
Well, she is actually releasing serial novel on Patreon For $3, she's writing 2 serialized books. And if you do $3 a month, you can
Take a note.
put that in your 2021 box.
Yeah.
Tired of A Song of Ice, Fire, Blasphemy. Absolutely, Noel. I will never I will never. And this is one thing Jennifer's pointed out here. She said reviewers are
Yes.
so critical to indie authors' success. And
Yep.
yes, I agree. And also, I feel like there has to be some sort of compensation for the fact, not like monetary compensation,
Yeah.
but like there has to be a consideration, is a better word, for the fact that this indie author, if it is their first book, you absolutely have to judge that. Not everyone, like you said, like not everyone's Scott Lynch and knocks out of the park on the first
Right.
book.
Right.
This is a growth thing, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you know, Lezlie, this is actually we'll probably get into it a little more later. I don't know if it's great to do it now, but The Gunslinger of Dark Tower. Stephen King wrote it when he was what, 17, 18?
19.
Yeah, and I actually like The Gunslinger, I'll be honest. The first
I
time I
did
read it,
too.
I didn't like it at all.
I
2016.
loved it. I
Yeah,
loved it. But
2016,
I'm
I hated
older.
it.
Yeah.
But now I love it.
Yeah, a lot of people I think first read it when they were younger, and I do think that I feel that it is his Stephen King was questioning religion. I think it was a bit of a religious expedition, a religious
Mhm.
journey for him. And
Yeah.
if I read that as a teenager, I would have been so bored. I wouldn't have cared. But as an adult, I found it so, and I love Man's Search for God. I don't care what God he's looking for. Religious journeys are something I love.
Yeah, I like religion to be explored in my fantasy, and I actually agree with you on what The Gunslinger provides. I haven't posted my review of it yet, but like I'm just finished up book 4 of Dark Tower. I really need to film those and get those out. I think I'm going to film them this weekend. I won't give away too much of my thoughts, but The Gunslinger it's so funny because have you seen? He said he wrote it pretentiously. Like he openly says it's a pretentious book because when you read The Gunslinger, it's nothing like Stephen King that anybody knows. It's not even anything like the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh book.
Not at all.
It's totally different. But I'll be honest, I kind of like the way it was written, which means I'm pretentious.
Well, if the shoe fits.
Well, you know, I don't know. Reading it again, rereading it this year, I'm like, wow, I can't believe in 2016. I wasn't reading a lot then. I was like, I can't believe I didn't love this. This is phenomenal. And then it just totally shifts. But the point remains is that Stephen King has grown as an author, and these other authors can grow. And
that's another reason why I like to reread, because depending on what walk of life I'm in, a book will hit me different.
Yeah,
like
I
when
agree.
I first picked up The Lies of Locke Lamora, I read 100 pages. I did not like it. So I put it down, but I'm going to come back to it. I'm just giving myself, some space. I'm going to come back to it, and I'll probably, I may be in a different place and whatever I'm doing in my life, and it may just absolutely appeal to me.
That's so true. Like that is absolutely on point. I've told people multiple times. I read The Way of Kings at the exact right time. The time I had to read, the mindset I was in, I needed an escape. It was a little bit of a stressful. I was moving, and I was only getting like a chapter or two a night. I'm telling, The Way of Kings came at the perfect time. A Song of Ice and Fire came at the perfect time for me. And timing's everything.
Yeah,
it really is in life, and it's funny because it even translates, over to reading. Aziz asks, "What is your favorite new series?"
Oh, like as a new release series?
Yeah, I think he's meaning like newer, right? Like not a Wheel of Time type thing.
So my newest release favorite series would have to be The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. This book was so fun. It's fluff.
What's it about?
100% fluff. Oh my goodness. Mystery. It's a Venetian inspired fantasy. It is adult fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't even know. It's got politics. We have a big con going on. There is, I don't even know how to describe this book. Words escape me. But it's a 600-page chunker that I knocked out very quickly. It's hard to say what even appealed to me the most, but there was a spider companion in it, and I thought I was
Can't
not going
do
to be
it.
able to deal with that. But Mr. Peabody, we kind of ended up liking each other a little bit. I think he was okay.
Yeah,
But that
I
book I just ate up.
I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could do a spider companion.
Well, and now we only saw him a couple of times.
Okay.
So I'm okay with a couple of times. And he was
Okay.
very gentlemanly. Like he would bow.
Well, manners are important.
Okay. You know, as long as you stay over there.
Manners are actually factually a kryptonite for arachnophobia, I think.
I don't even like that word.
I guess if I had to answer this, and we're saying new series, like I'm gonna take that as like maybe ongoing. I mean, it's either Stormlight or the Age of Madness trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. I don't want to like continuously drone on about Joe Abercrombie because it is what it is. But it's hard not to pick Stormlight, even though the fourth book was definitely not my favorite. It wasn't my
Words of Radiance is still my favorite.
Yeah, Words of Radiance was the peak for me for sure. So I guess I'll say Stormlight because also the absolute ceiling for that series is ridiculously high. Noel says please pick it back up, talking about Scott Lynch and Eliza Locklear.
I'm going to. I promise. It's probably going to be the very end of this year or first of next year because if I end up loving it, I'll want to continue the series. And so, but I'm definitely going to give it another try.
I like this. Malazan is the hardest series to get people to read too. So I'm just going to make I know you've started Malazan. So I haven't started it, but Malazan, sorry, whatever. Daniel Green said this, and I totally agree. It is really hard to recommend Dark Tower being 4 books in because it's so weird. It's bizarre. Do you feel like
it's so? I've just been surprised with every stinking book. I'm on the Drawing of the Three. I mean, the Wastelands, and well, first of all, Drawing of the Three compared to the Gunslinger.
It's an 80s action movie. It's a portal fantasy.
Could not believe how fast I read that book. I mean, it was water, and I was lost in the desert for 3 days.
In the desert.
I just drank it in.
Let's go.
And I loved it. It was just a breakneck pace. Everything was so interesting. I had no idea Stephen King could write characters like that.
Oh, dude.
It was just amazing.
So the audiobooks are tremendous, by the way. I mean,
I've heard that I need to pick up the audiobooks.
They're really good.
And so I thought I knew what to expect going into the Wastelands.
Nope.
I've read part 1 and I'm like, what just happened? Like, where am I?
I physically have like stared at the book and been like, I gotta read that again. Did that really just happen? Or is this reference really in this book? And I mean, my wife is not reading it. I'll just look at her and be like, this just happened in this book. And she's like, what are you reading? And I'm like, The Dark Tower. And I don't know what's going on, but I really like it. So
I just love that I'm constantly being surprised. I love how old the series is, but it still holds up so well.
It really, I mean, I feel like it's brand new. I love it. And in book 4, I think book 4 has been the best so far, if not it. Drawing of the Three. I love Wastelands, but the ending will make you want to get to book 4 very quickly. So it blends. It almost blends to me.
The most people have either said Drawing of the Three or Wizard and Glass was their favorite. And my good friend Una from the Codex Cantina, he said, I know you're reading 1 per month. Save the Wastelands for your last read of April so you can go directly into Wizard and Glass.
Yeah, you have to.
Thank me for it. And that's my plan. So I'm gonna finish that one in a day or 2 and straight go into Wizard.
I hope you like riddles. That's all I will say. Cryptic says, speaking of riddles, Cryptic says, if you had to choose one book series from your shelf, which would you keep? It's A Song of Ice and Fire, and it's not relatively close.
Oh, the series that only one, The Sword of Truth. I love that series.
You know, I've been really considering giving it a go next year. I really have.
I love it. I know there's been so many things said about the author. And when I see what you guys got to understand, Wheel of Time, A Song of Ice and Fire, Sword of Truth, I was a little baby teenager when these started coming out. I've been with these series since they started, and that was before the a whole lot of internet presence and social media. You didn't know anything about
You got
what
an
kind of
emotional
people the
attachment.
authors were.
Yeah.
Right. So I fell in love with these worlds and these characters without knowing any of that. But
yeah.
I think what I loved about the Sword of Truth series, Richard and Kaylin are some of the main characters, and they're a couple, and that happens in the first book. They remain a couple. Like, there's none of that. There's no miscommunication.
Love
Nobody
triangle.
gets mad at somebody. Nobody plays again. Yes, I can't stand love triangles. And their love was just absolutely pure. I love the magic system. There were some really amazing things done in this series I've not seen in any other series. I would love for you to read that series.
Yeah, for one, it's morbid curiosity. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
And I understand what you're saying about like you didn't know anything about you just read the books and you fell in love. I feel that way about Harry Potter. I think J.K. Rowling is a complete moron.
She's an idiot.
I mean, on different fronts. I mean, she just needs to not talk, really, at the end of the day. Quit killing my childhood. But I still have, I might not watch a Harry Potter show or something like that, but those books will still have an impact on me for the rest of my life, because between that and Lord of the Rings, that's most people, right, got something from that. So I don't think that is, that makes a lot of sense to me. And it's really cool to hear someone say that, because like I feel like a lot of people shy away from that because obviously Terry Goodkind's messed up and said some pretty crap things, but
he said some things, and I know a lot of people have said he plagiarized stuff, and I don't know. I don't know about any of that, but I've already purchased the series. It's not like if I go sell them or return them, if I could, it's not like that's gonna hurt him in any way.
Yes. I mean, and he's passed, right? So it is what it is. And he sold a lot of books and stuff. So I actually really like that answer just because I thought it'd be Wheel of Time. I thought for sure it was going to be Wheel of Time.
Not up against Sword of Truth.
Well, there's definitely other Sword of Truth fans in the chat, Jennifer, and must read mangas. And this is you.
I'm
okay.
Out. One Piece, and I know it's really long, but just the first arc, just the first 23. It's a pirate manga, and it's a Straw Hat crew, and they are the most loyal group of friends you'll ever meet. And I love their loyalty. It's just great, clean, fun. It is so much fun. And me, I like to read manga or comics first thing in the morning to start my day. So, when you get to start off your day laughing or just smiling or having just a feel-good feeling because of the characters, you can't go wrong. I have not read Berserk yet, but it is on my list, Noah.
Every time I see them at Books A Million in those beautiful black, like big books, I'm like, I might pick it up.
I need that. Death Note. I love Death Note. What was funny about Death Note is when I started reading it, I was having trouble getting a feel for it. I didn't actually like it, but I went and watched the anime and I liked it. I think the voice actors were able to put emotion to what I was reading. So when I went back to the manga after watching the anime, I could read it with the emotion of the voice actors. Totally changed my experience.
That's awesome.
Totally changed it. And so I learned if I'm reading something and it's not clicking with me, try the audiobook, because sometimes the narrator can just really bring it to life. Or try, like anime if it's a manga. But oh my word, One Piece is my favorite. I also like Tokyo Ghoul, just Tokyo Ghoul. Me and Ree, we didn't get along at all, but Tokyo Ghoul, the first one, that is the most hauntingly beautiful art I have ever seen in a manga. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the art is a huge draw to me. I love illustrations. I really do. If there's an illustration, let's talk about the Farseer trilogy illustrated editions. My God, if there's an illustrated version of a book, I buy it pretty much every single time. So manga is something I haven't delved into. I am going to eventually read Attack on Titan. Like that's going to happen because I tried the English
Oh
dub show,
man.
and if the dub wasn't so terrible, I would say it was like amazing. But the English dub was kind of cringe to me because it was just so much screaming, and I'm like,
Yeah.
please quit yelling everything. Like,
Well, I love to watch anime. I've been watching anime for years. What I've learned reading the manga is straight to the point of the story. And sometimes that works for me and sometimes it doesn't. Like my favorite anime is Inuyasha. The manga cuts out a lot of the story. So I don't like the manga as much as I like the show. But whereas like One Piece manga, I love. The show, they take 20 minutes to like perform a special move. And I'm like, I could have read a whole volume in the time it took Luffy to do Gum Gum Pistol. So
oh, that's so funny. Well, that's really cool. I mean, I'm glad you're here because I don't know anything about manga at all. So thank God we have Lezlie here this week. Aziz, and this is a great question. The Faithful and the Fallen was my first epic fantasy read. Great pick, meaning a large epic world. So what do you guys recommend? A similar series that is not complex, but also fun and character driven. Lezlie, go.
First Law, 100%. It is 100. The characters are the best thing about the First Law trilogy. Absolutely, 1000%. They're all of the characters in First Law, the good, the bad, the gray. I love them all. Absolutely love them all. They're just
you took my recommendation.
I knew it. I'm like, say my name first.
I will say, if you haven't read the follow-up trilogy to The Faithful and the Fallen, there's a sequel trilogy
Of
called
Blood
Blood and Bone, and it is just as good as Faithful and the Fallen. And the good news is, ladies and gentlemen, this Tuesday, May 4th, John Gwynn is releasing book 1 of his new series, The Bloodsworn Saga, and it is Shadow of the Gods. If you have not seen this cover, it is tremendous. It is a Norse-inspired fantasy. It is John Gwynn's best book 1, in my opinion, and I have a review on my channel. If you want to check it out, it is spoiler-free. Yep. I received the advanced reader copy of that. I actually found it for sale at my Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
They put it out early, so I grabbed it. Because I just want to support John as much as I can. And I really think that that's a phenomenal book that most people could read. And I also saw someone mention Discworld, and I think that is a phenomenal. I just read Mort. First Terry Pratchett, blew me away. I'm definitely going to review that on the channel in the coming weeks because me and Christian were talking about, and Lezlie, you could probably relate to this. People tell you need to read 7,000 pages of an epic series before it gets good. And you're just like,
yeah,
that's a hard sell. And I'm going to tell you why, because Terry Pratchett can write masterpieces in like 280 pages.
That's insane. I've not read any of Discworld yet. Oh, I'm going to succumb.
I know.
Get into it.
Lezlie, I'm telling you. I am so excited for you to read Mort. I'm so excited for you to read more. It is going to be right up your alley. Right up your alley. It is so funny. It's funny, but it also has a really good plot, which really surprised me because I didn't expect the plot to be as good as it was. So
I am intrigued.
Yes, that'll be really fun. So First Law, we definitely recommend to you. And then John Gwynn's other works, because the one thing I will say about John Gwynn is there is no one else writing like him in fantasy. There is no one that is putting on a pace on the reader like he is without sacrificing any quality of character or plot. He's one of the best doing it, in my humble opinion. I think Lezlie, you probably agree, right?
The really funny thing about John Gwynn and characters, he's another one I love. The good, the bad, the gray, but the really evil ones. Oh. I have never hated a character as much as I did in John Gwynn's world.
Yes.
And I love the characters in The Faithful and the Fallen so much that the follow-up trilogy of Blood and Bone, I was really gun-shy about starting that series because I was thinking, how am I going to go back to the Banished Land? Because the second trilogy picks up 100 years after the first.
Yep.
And I thought, how am I going to be able to go back to the Banished Land and not have my favorite characters that I've loved for those first 4 books?
Mm-hmm.
Well, easy. John and Gwen. I should have just trusted him because I fell in love with this new set of characters. And it was just, oh man, that man can write a character.
He can. He can write a character on either side, good or bad. And like I said, the most minimal amount of page time to get you invested in the story and characters that I've ever seen. He's just the most efficient writer in fantasy, bar none.
Mm-hmm.
Bar none.
Very prolific.
I'm gonna
he wrote 1 book a year for the Faithful and the Fallen.
Yeah, and he just posted he's finished up book 2 of the Bloodsworn Saga.
I saw that.
He's giving Sanderson a run for his money. I mean, this is a guy who he's taking us seriously, and I think you know what it is. John Gwen has stories that he wants to tell, and when I was a pro wrestler, I always said I'm going to do this until I have no more stories to tell, because that's what we're doing in pro wrestling. We're telling stories, right?
Oh my gosh, I love wrestling since I was 14.
Well, that's tremendous. I wrestled for right around 7.5, 8 years. My first match was when I was 17 years old, and I had my last match when I was 25. So yeah, it'd been almost, I think I was right shy of 8 years there. And when I ran out of stories to tell, you know, and I had injuries and stuff that made me walk away, but I decided to stay where I was and stay out of the business after I got hurt, because I ran out of stories to tell. But when I had stories up here that I felt here, let me tell you what, those were some of the best moments of my life doing that storytelling in person. And when I read John Gwen, I see a man I read a man that has that same passion. He knows what to do up here, but he feels it here with his stories. He really does.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
On Tuesday, new release day.
Okay.
New Stormlight Archive book comes out and a new John Gwen book comes out. Which one would you pick up first?
John Gwen.
Hell yes.
It's actually
100%.
It's not even really. I mean, I love Stormlight, don't get me wrong.
Same.
But I like John Gwen more.
Yeah.
I don't know how popular that's gonna be with the people.
I don't even care. I stand by it.
Oh my goodness. Alex is here trying to wake up so I can wake up. Let's go. I heard Bloodsworn Saga, he says. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that John Gwen is just, I mean, he's probably in my top 3 favorite authors. It's a really tight race at the top. And any day he could be 2, probably. Who's your favorite author, Lezlie?
Oh man, in which genre?
All of them. I'll tell you what. I'll give you a pass. Fantasy. We'll just do fantasy.
I mean, I can't just pick one. Like urban fantasy, Jim Butcher.
No. Fantasy as a whole.
I cannot pick just one.
Chatting with nuts. We ask the hard questions here. Okay. No softballs.
Oh my gosh. I literally cannot pick.
Give me 3. Give me 3.
Robin Hobb, John Gwen,
I like what
Brandon
I'm hearing.
Sanderson.
I love what I'm hearing.
I would have to put Brandon, you know, he's going to be writing. He could write a book a year, so he would definitely make sure to keep me entertained.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Brandon Sanderson has been hit or miss with me, but when it hits, it's awesome. And I still think he's one of the best working authors, like easily.
All I've read is Stormlight and the accompanying short or novellas.
Yeah.
And then I read Elantris, and I did not like that book.
I don't think that you're alone in that opinion. I've not read it. It's on my shelf.
It took me almost 3 months. It was so boring.
I donated Mistborn the other day. I got rid of it.
Oh no!
I said, you know, we'll just move these off to the side here. If I ever want them again, I'll get them in ebook, I guess. Yeah. Noelle said she's paid me back because I gave you a hardball, and now she's saying, "What if a John Gwen is dropping the same day as Wins?" LOL, JK, Jimmy. I'm reading Wins if that happens. I'm reading Wins. It's not, which is terrible.
I'm not, because it'll probably then we'll be just stuck waiting for years and years on the next one.
Yeah, but I can actually make videos about theories about,
I
why the
mean,
food was on a certain way.
no, see, his last two that came out were written. It was one book, and his
Yeah.
publisher made him split. Why do we have so many years in between?
Well, it is what it is.
He's so mean.
On my reread, I'm actually going to do the boiled leather where it combines the 4 and 5. I'm actually
Mhm.
really excited to do that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm trying to see some other people are putting it out there saying story constructor Robert Jordan, author Joe Abercrombie. Yeah, Joe Abercrombie's up there. I mean,
Oh yeah. Oh,
I
definitely.
I'll be honest. I didn't answer the question. I didn't know if anyone noticed, but
Oh,
I asked
I
you,
mean,
but I didn't answer.
we're not done, sir.
Oh, God, that is so tough.
I know. You're
Hmm.
welcome. Go ahead. Payback.
So I kind of want to take a scapegoat and just put
Mhm.
George R. R. Martin on an S tier, like where I just don't include him, because he's my favorite. Whether or not people, whatever, he's my favorite. I'm clearly biased when it comes to him. So outside of that, I would say Robin Hobb, John Gwynne, and Joe Abercrombie. Those
Yeah.
are my three. And then honestly,
I'm
Stephen
right.
King is
I-
right there.
Oh my gosh. Stephen
Stevie.
King is just, he writes fantasy, he writes thrillers, he writes horror, he writes science fiction. I mean, he does it all.
Yeah.
And
And
it's so well done.
you said something when you were talking about, I believe, the Wastelands are drawing of the three. And it was, I'm going to say whenever I finally post my reviews,
Mhm.
uh, his imagination and the word selection Stephen King uses. He's not like Tad Williams in Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. He's not Robin Hobb. He's not whoever, right?
Right.
But the word selection that Stephen King picks to
Mhm.
make your skin crawl,
Mhm.
nobody does it better. I don't know if anybody has better word selection. I really
Yeah.
don't.
I just, I mean, it just, when you just sit and think about it, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
I wish I could be as creative. I wish I could write like this,
Yes. Yes.
but I have no talent whatsoever. I was created specifically to appreciate the creativity of others, and I am loving doing it.
Yeah, I
But
agree with.
he just really, really surprised me. I had some serious incorrect misconceptions about Stephen King as an author,
Yeah.
and I've bounced around. I'm not reading a publication order. I'm just reading whatever. Some of them, some of the series of his, I've read backwards. I don't care. It's just, I'm just amazed by what this man does. Like, what he's doing with the Dark Tower is
Oh,
blowing my mind. And then you have Salem's Lot, which is an extremely slow burn.
I loved it.
But I the way he developed the town and the people
Mm-hmm.
and just built the suspense slowly, 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 I was so invested. I lived in this town. These people were my neighbors. They were people, these, I shopped in these stores. I knew them so well. So
Father Callahan.
when stuff started happening, I was taking it personally. I felt it viscerally,
Mm-hmm.
and it just really amped up the suspense and just the finale. Like,
Yes.
ugh,
You know what
I want to reread it.
I said this, I think maybe with Christian. And I stand by it. Stephen King does world building within our world.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to call it scene setting because he makes me look at reality from a different perspective.
Mhm.
No one has ever captured the human condition like Stephen King.
No.
Nobody.
And that, like, with the drawing of the three, with Odetta and Detta, I've never known anyone with that disorder. I've never known somebody who knew somebody. I've had zero experience with someone with that disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew nothing about it, but he wrote it in a way for me, even though I've had no contact with it, I felt that I understood what it was, the character, and I mean, just how it was for her and how I mean, that was a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Just masterpiece character development.
Yeah, if you are an 80s fan, like 80s
I
action
love
movie, there is a scene in Drawing of the Three that will appease you very much with an actual I love that like Stephen King clearly is using inspiration from other forms of
Yep.
media. And I don't really think this is a spoiler, but like he loves the Terminator and he doesn't just use the Terminator as like a metaphor. He actually says, and they
Mhm.
went and saw Terminator. Like he doesn't care. He
Yeah.
wears them right on his sleeve, and that's something that Gurm also does that I really enjoy. Um, and I was asked if I read Fever Dream. Yes, it was actually I believe it was my top 10 best books of 2020. I love Fever Dream. I think it's the best vampire story. I actually like it more than Salem's Lot, which might be a controversial opinion. Lezlie, you should read. You should
I need
read
to
that.
read that. I need to read. It is on the list. I
Yes,
love anything to do with vampires, witches, anything like that. I don't care. That's a trope. You can write as many times as you want to, and I'm going to read it.
I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I have found that I'm a bigger fan than I thought I was, if that makes sense. Especially with Fever Dream and Salem's Lot. Like I read them pretty close back to back. So I was like, man, I'm turning into a vampire reader or something. Stuart Carver asks, do you like The Shining? Only King book I've read most of it, and no, I haven't read it. Now, the one thing that concerns me about, and maybe King might not be for you, but it's hard to say that because he's written so many books that are so different. But I have heard The Shining is one of his best achievements. So who knows? Lezlie, have you read it?
I read that as a teenager, and I don't really remember enough about it.
That's like me and It. I read It when I was very, very young, and I'm going to
Yeah,
reread it.
I read that, and I remember what the true form of it was enough that I don't want to reread it. Okay.
That's awesome. Because I know, that's pretty good.
And the locket that she wore and the noise that it made.
Yeah.
Done. I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, it's on the list. I don't know if I'll get to it this year. And speaking of It, and speaking of Dark Tower, what are you? So are you doing a Dark Tower reading order, or are you just doing chronological going through? Like, what do you feel?
I'm just doing the books right now, just the Dark Tower books. But I'm planning to incorporate the other ones at some point.
So do you think that you'll? So here's why I asked. So I'm at book 4. And this is where people tell you to read the Wind Through the Keyhole, right? They tell you to read Insomnia, Salem's Lot if you haven't. I've read Salem's Lot and Stand and Eyes of the Dragon, so those are out. But Insomnia, Hearts in Atlantis, and The Talisman, two of those are huge books.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to do it. I am going to read through the Wind Through the Keyhole.
Yeah, I am too.
I am going to read that. And I might read, because Hearts in Atlantis is actually a short story collection, and you just have to read the first short story. It's a novella. It's like 250 pages. I might read that. But I've actually, and I have friends who have read the whole series, and they tell me that Insomnia is actually better after, because it makes you reminisce on the dark, because there's only one chapter that ties in, right?
Yeah.
This is a series I'm going to reread.
Yeah.
Right. So I kind of want to save those for like a reread to make it even more, suspenseful. Adrian. Hi, Adrian. She said Dreamcatcher is my favorite King book, and I don't care who judges me for it. I've never read the book. I watched the movie. Really liked the movie. It was movie or TV series. One of the two. I can't really remember.
It was a movie.
I think it was too. I think you're right. I've wanted to jump into Dark Tower, but part of me is intimidated by reading The Stand first. That's fair. I do think The Stand is... Have you read The Stand, Lezlie?
A long time ago.
Okay.
I went through a King stage in high school.
Didn't we all? I think it's almost mandatory, but it's not.
Yeah.
In fact, I could see it being cooler after the fact. I do think Eyes of the Dragon... Did you read Eyes of the Dragon? Nope. It's interesting. It's definitely a kid. I just reviewed it on the channel, but it is a kid story. He wrote it for his daughter. Mm-hmm. And Fallen Adam, who's a subscriber of mine, he told me about this. You'll love this since you like Stephen King. So Eyes of the Dragon got slammed by his fandom. They were like, why did you write this book for your daughter? Because he wrote it for his daughter.
Oh my gosh.
They were pissed. Randall Flagg is in it. So there's a Stan connection and a Dark Tower connection. And he wrote Misery after Eyes of the Dragon, and it was a commentary on his own fandom for putting him to the coals for writing Eyes of the Dragon.
It makes sense now.
When Fallen Adam told me that, shout out to Fallen Adam. When he told me that, I immediately went out and picked up Misery because I've seen the movie. I've seen the movie. I've
Love
never
that
read the book.
Oh, the book is amazing.
The
So
cover's
much
sick.
better than the movie. Yeah.
Really?
So much better than the movie.
Well, I love the movie, so that's awesome.
Oh gosh. She is so much crazier than Kathy Bates could ever make her on screen.
Wow, and that's impressive because I thought Kathy Bates did a wonderful
She did amazing.
job.
Oh yeah, she did.
That is great to hear. I picked it up. I picked up the one with the blue cover. I love the cover. Stephen King has some of the best and worst covers of all time. But I immediately picked it up when Fallen Adam told me about that because I just thought it was so funny. Because I actually liked Eyes of the Dragon. It is a very basic fantasy story that's for kids, but there's still like that Stephen King-esque pieces to it. Where he kind of commentates on like the last. There's a really good part where Roland is a king and he's going through his last stages of life, and it really resembles a time that everyone can relate to whenever you have someone very important in your life that's becoming elderly and they become less than superhuman to you, right?
Yeah.
And he investigates that in that book, and even though it's a kid's book, I think it's something that anyone that has a heart can kind of relate to. So. You probably like it. I mean, it's fantasy. It's fun. Super short. Super short. Yeah.
I've also started getting the graphic novels for the Dark Tower too.
I've been tempted.
They're beautiful.
They look great.
I've been collecting them.
Now they aren't done with that adaptation, right?
I don't think so.
Oh, this is a good one, Lezlie. We need to figure this one out. Where should someone start with King period? Asking for a friend.
So he writes so many different types. There's horror, there's thriller, there's fantasy, there's science fiction. I read the collection If It Bleeds, and I really loved the short story that was about Holly Gibney. So I went back and read the book that tied into her, The Outsider, which is in reverse because there's actually like I forgot I forget the ones with the guy that the detective that she worked with, where she
Mr.
was
Mercedes?
Mr. Mercedes.
Yeah.
So that's where she was first introduced, but I didn't care. I read The Outsider, and I read 4 to 5 books at a time, but when I started The Outsider, the world ceased to exist until I finished that book. It was so good.
And that's a newer one.
That's like a supernatural thriller, in my opinion. It was so good.
You're gonna skin me. I own it. I haven't read it yet. I watched the show, which apparently the show is totally off the wall. Like, people don't like the show. I actually didn't hate the show. It got way worse towards the ending, but apparently the Outsider ending that King wrote is much better. I like that recommendation based on what I've heard about it. If we're going off books that I've read, if you want to see Stephen King doing Stephen King things and what makes him special, and I there's a caveat to this recommendation, but it's Pet Sematary. It is and the reason why there's a caveat, it is quite literally a case study about grief. If you are someone who is going through something like that right now, anybody that wants to get it, like Pet Sematary is a book you have to read at the right time. I mean, that book made me feel things I didn't know I could ever feel. I am not a parent myself, but some of the things that the parent goes through in that book, I mean,
that's another one of those situations where I'm not a parent either, but he wrote it so well that I was able to
I'm getting chills.
Yeah. Oh man.
I'm
going to reread that one.
I think that might be a yearly Halloween read. And yes, Ghost Pets. Yeah, but not really. It's honest to God,
it's worse than Ghost Pets.
I wish I could tell you the motivation behind the book, but it gives away the book. So I can't tell you, Noelle, but there's a reason he wrote this book, and you'll see it if you read the forward. Also, Stephen King writes the best forwards for his books and gives his motivations. I think the Dark Tower's forwards and afterwards are some of the best ever written.
I love when they do that.
Oh, his are the best.
I typically wait until after I've read the book to see if the author is able to get their intent through without me knowing it. But I always love to go back and read what they write because it just makes it so much better. And Stephen Graham Jones is another one who does that. And Oh my word. He's
I've never heard of him.
Jimmy.
Listen. He doesn't write fantasy, does he?
He is literary horror.
Oh God.
And if you're a fan of the 80s, especially 80s, 90s slashers, Friday the 13th, Freddy Krueger, Scream, all of that, if you're a fan of those.
All right, you're intriguing me.
Oh man, and they're also different.
Give me one book by him.
The Only Good Indians.
Oh, I have it on my shelf. He wrote that?
Yes.
I actually watched your review and I bought it because of you.
Okay, turn the stream off. Go read it right now.
Whoa. There's 26 people here who do not want their Friday night to be ruined. So I have a responsibility.
Oh my gosh. I cannot wait to talk to you about that book.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I literally picked it up because of you. So that's awesome.
It is amazing.
And it was on sale, to be fair.
Oh my gosh. But he writes literary horror.
I mean, that you have me sold.
And he has a message. And he's a Blackfeet Native American. And he incorporates their beliefs and customs into this story. And it's not overwhelming. Like, it's not like rubbing my nose in it. Like, hey, this is what we believe. It's just seamlessly in. It's normal. It's normal. And I was so intrigued by it. I actually went and looked it up. I did research on Blackfeet Native Americans, and because I wanted to know more, it made me hunger for more knowledge about these people.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't. You have. It started out as a novella.
I'll read it this October, right around Halloween. I'll do it.
I'm rereading it around that time too.
All right. Well, we'll do it together, and then we'll have a live stream about it.
I cannot wait.
You know, it's funny you say that it made you want to do more research, because that's one thing Poppy War did for me. Poppy War, I knew that she had based these off real life events, and a lot of the horrors that really came in the Poppy War that made people cringe actually happened.
Yes.
And it made me it made me dive into more Asian history, and I'm so glad. I love history, and that's just one of the continents that I hadn't really delved into, you know.
And a lot of people had problems with that, but I love the fact that she gave the clearest picture of that war.
Yeah.
She did not embellish. She did not change it.
Yeah.
She dumped it on that page, and a lot of folks had problems with it. We need to know. We need to be aware
I agree.
That kind of occurrence. It's hard, yes, but that's what happens.
Well, it's reality. And you have to face the music, and you know it's tough. It is tough. Now, what I see some people say, oh, I didn't sign up for that when I read the fan. Well, put it down then. I mean, I guess that's what I would say. But yeah, I saw people that were upset the fact that she included that stuff, and that's not where they wanted the story to go. But it's her book, so she gets to do what she wants, and her intent. Yeah, it's her history, and the intent was there, and it worked. I mean, it absolutely inspired me to educate myself, which makes me laugh when people say that we can't grow from reading fantasy or fiction. I mean, nonsense.
I mean, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous.
It is authors that take something important and they wrap it in a pretty bow.
Yeah.
To attract us in and hopefully educate us.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And that's why themes go a long way in fantasy. I think I'd rather an author write what they want to write rather than something they feel is an obligation. Doesn't stop me from being frustrated about Song of Ice Fire. I also don't want it to suck. Yeah, I definitely don't want it to suck. And Lezlie said something earlier where she's like, I'm not watching the Wheel of Time 6 seconds. When it's out, I'll talk about it. That's kind of where I am. And to be honest, it's so funny because A Song of Ice Fire is why I started this channel, and I've done minimal content about it because I think I'm too close to it. I think if that's the best way I could describe it. Like, I'm actually not super interested in discourse about that kind of stuff. Like whenever George signed the HBO deal, I thought about making a video talking about how I felt about it because I had a lot of thoughts, and I'm ranting to my wife, and I'm like, well, I should probably leave her alone and let her do her thing and maybe just flip on the camera. But I've actually just not done that for the main fact that I just like don't want to deal with the riffraff of it. Christian from Lost Discovery did a thing, said, "Is it too late?" And if you go look at that comment section, you'll see what I mean. So I want him to take his time. Am I disappointed? Yeah, but you know what? There's a lot of great fantasy out there, and it doesn't change what those books are to me. It doesn't change the impact of some of the scenes. And George is, I mean, whether you like him or not, he absolutely is, he's monumental in fantasy.
It doesn't mean I wouldn't punch him in the kidney if I met him in person. I'm like, hey.
You wouldn't punch an old man, would you? I mean, if there was one thing I could have, right? A wish.
I would make sure there were no witnesses.
Yeah. Well.
But I mean, he said this is not his favorite series. He likes his other series better.
Yeah. He is a sci-fi author, and he also loves writing television.
Yeah.
So you know what? We only get a certain amount of time on this earth, and I feel as if one should spend that, whether or not it pleases the masses. I think he should spend it how he wants it. And I'll be honest, I know a lot of people are like, forget these new shows that he's helping work on. I just want the book. I agree, but like, I'm going to watch the shows.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to Broadway to see Harrenhal. Yeah. Like, that's happening.
Sure, I'm selfish. I want that book. I've been wanting that book. This is another series that I started back in the mid-90s. When it began, my cousin gave me the first book, and that was it.
Yeah.
It was the first book I ever read where each chapter was a different point of view. And that was so weird to me. I was like, wow, this is just groundbreaking. I
mean, it was groundbreaking. And people shortchange. I could go into a huge rant about this because I see, I'll be honest, it's exhausting being a Song of Ice and Fire fan. I'm not doing a woe is me here, folks. I'm not. But, all I see all day, I mean, this is a series that I care about a lot. Like, I have a personal attachment to this series for multiple reasons. George is my favorite author. And just like all day, it's just like people just saying terrible things about him, wishing death on him. And that's awful. Those people are morons, right? We'll just ignore that. But you just see it all day long. It's just like my Twitter feed, just people dumpstering the series, saying how bad it is. And it's like, I mean, it's fine. It's whatever people want. But I'm just saying it's not like the best time in the world to be a Song of Ice and Fire fan. So of course I would like the book to come out. I'd love it to come out and be amazing,
Oh yeah.
But yeah, sometimes it could be a rough. I would stick around, but my 8-month-old refuses to sleep. I wish you the best of luck, Alex. I really do.
I tell you, George was one of the first ones who really cut me deep with what he did to his characters. And it took me several books to understand maybe I shouldn't get attached. But what hacked me off the most about the show, like at first they were following the books great and then they got crazy. But one of my favorite things about the books that they never put in the show was Catelyn Stark after the Red Wedding.
Yes.
I was so disappointed they did not explore that storyline, those characters in that storyline properly.
Yeah. Not to mention that George says that situation plays a major role in the ending. Yeah.
When the Red Wedding happened in the show, I was so excited because I was like,
I mean, it's one of the greatest scenes ever.
Yeah.
That's why D&D wanted to adapt it, right? They said, we want to do the Red Wedding. That was like their whole goal. And you could tell because after that, they punted it. They wanted to go make Star Wars. Yeah, they made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
Made a lot of mistakes. But I'm excited for these new adaptations because one thing where we do have to give Game of Thrones, and people will be upset about the comparisons of Game of Thrones. But here's the thing. When Game of Thrones came out, it was compared to Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
There's always going to be comparisons. You just got to ignore that stuff. But it has opened the door to say, hey, fantasy can attach to the zeitgeist. Like it can grab the attention of the zeitgeist. And I'm just so excited to see this Lord of the Rings show. Witcher is great on its own. I've really enjoyed it. It's not the greatest show of all time, but God, it is must-see TV for me.
Yeah.
And apparently a lot of other people, because it's Netflix's #1 stream show. I believe it bounces back and forth with Stranger Things. But the Wheel of Time show, I mean, It's happening. It's absolutely
Eventually.
happening.
I'm just not even excited about it anymore. I'm tired of getting excited and
Yeah.
push back.
Yeah, I
Get
really hope
excited.
it comes out this year. I really do. It kind of feels like, we're coming out of this. Things are producing again, right? Like, you feel it? Do you feel it, Lezlie? Do you feel it building?
It's slowly happening here. So I'm
Yeah.
excited.
And even with our stories, right? Like we got Joe Abercrombie finishing up maybe his last First Law work.
Mm-hmm.
Insane. He's working on a new thing that's totally outside of First Law right now. And, we got the Bloodsworn Saga coming out. It's an exciting time. And I know it's a few years away, but we're almost to Stormlight 5, people.
2023.
2023. And then he's taking a
That'll be
5-year
the
break.
end. Well, that'll be the end of the first arc. So the first 5 books are an arc, and then we're gonna get the next 5.
Did you read Rhythm of War? Are you all caught up?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What did you think of Rhythm of War?
I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy it. I had a good time with it. I did not like that he retold Eshonai's story from, what's her name? Starts with a V.
Oh,
sister,
Venli.
While she did expound on it and give us information we did not have previously, she literally retold everything about Eshonai.
Yeah.
And I was like, sir, you don't have to keep adding pages to these books as you go. That could have been
little Robert Jordan-esque with the retelling.
But there was a lot, and of course we had a lot of Lift in there, and I love Lift. Too bad Alex left.
Well, I'll carry that banner. I hate Lift.
Oh my gosh.
I hate Lift.
You too.
Oh, get out of here.
She's going to be very important. I just know.
Oh, God, please no.
When she walked up and put her little hand in Dalinor's, when he walked into the red stuff, that was so sweet.
Let me say this. I'll say this because I read Edge Dancer because I'm a masochist apparently. Lift is a very well written character. It's
Brandon's favorite character.
A very well written character that is not for me.
And I love that my favorite sentient sword of all time was in there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, all that tie-in stuff is really awesome. I mean, it is. It makes you want to read the Cosmere. And I see someone said that they feel like Stormlight 5 is going to end much like Final Empire. I actually totally agree with you. I think everyone needs to be prepared for a gut punch. With book 5.
I think something really big is going to happen.
I didn't love Rhythm of War. I bounced back and forth on it a bit. I'm like mostly positive is how I would describe myself.
Yeah.
I think that the fact that Brandon is essentially inventing his own science inside of his Stormlight universe, or the Cosmic, whatever, Roshar, is really cool. Mm-hmm. It went a little too far for me. And I actually was talking to someone in Alex's Discord. I think it was Brent. And we were like, wasn't just me and him. He was kind of talking and he said something that I agreed with. And it's like, the Cosmere is so interesting, and specifically Stormlight and Roshar is so interesting. And I'm curious if you ever feel like this. Do you ever feel like whenever the mystique starts to get pulled back a little bit, like as a series goes on and you kind of figure out what's going on, do you ever feel like it loses a little bit of its glamour because of that?
Sometimes too big of a peek behind the curtain can do that. It's just like at Disney. Sometimes when you do the behind the scenes tours, while you do get cool information, it loses the magic.
Yeah.
I agree, but I know that a lot of people do enjoy it. I think that should have been maybe a companion novel, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of it felt very exposition-y to me, like very dumpy, like non-natural dialogue. Like, I don't know. I understand. I respect what he was doing with it. It's just like, it might be one of those things for me where the more I find out, the less I like thinking about these things. Like, I love watching Lost and Discovery videos and Captured War, all these people that make these amazing videos that I could never do.
Yeah.
And then once we start getting the answers, it's not as fun to me. And that's just a personal preference. That's not a knock on the book itself. That's just me, right?
Rank the order of which ones you like. Rank those first 4 Stormlight.
All right. Words of Radiance,
Yep,
Way of
agreed.
Kings,
No.
Oathbringer, Rhythm of War. If you would have asked me 6 months ago, it would have been Oathbringer, Words of Radiance, Way of Kings, Rhythm of War. Rhythm of War is definitely my least favorite.
Words of Radiance, Oathbringer, Way of Kings, and Rhythm of War.
Yeah, Oathbringer. So
I love Oathbringer.
I loved Oathbringer because I love Dalinar. Like, Dalinar's my boy.
Oh, but see, Oathbringer changed how I feel about Dalinar.
So do you like Dalinar or no?
I'm afraid of him.
I think you have good. I don't know if I would say I don't trust him. Well, maybe actually. I mean, you bring up a good point.
He never changed.
But you've hit a very important point. It added nuance to Dalinar's character.
It did.
And I really liked Oathbringer. The ending of Oathbringer, it was so epic, and so many things happened. But I just remember feeling like a little overwhelmed. And that's, again, this is all subjective. So my order has changed, but there's something about Words of Radiance and Way of Kings, like as a duology or something, is just like, to me, that's like peak Brandon Sanderson for me.
Words of Radiance had me laughing.
I mean, that book was awesome.
I mean, I was getting a tattoo and I was reading Words of Radiance on my Kindle, and I had to keep telling Sarah, I'm like, hold on, I've got to laugh, because I couldn't do it on the inside. And I was like, because I have a Warbreaker mashup tattoo. And I was like, oh, hold on, I got to get this out real quick, because it was belly laughing. So I just love that book.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I thought that was the peak for me so far. And I hope it can get back to it. It
was more like a big fat prequel.
I loved it.
It's beautiful. Though I read that one. I read it twice in a row. I'm
gonna reread it when I get my leather bound in hopefully a couple months.
You got yours?
Well, I ordered in the 2021 batch.
Okay,
I was late to the show because I didn't want to order it before I read it, just to make sure, because I didn't like love Mistborn. So I wanted to make sure that I was sold, and then I was sold and I ordered it. So when it comes in, I'm actually considering doing a read along on the channel for just Way of Kings. And I know that sounds weird, but I can't do the whole Cosmere again, or I'm sorry, Stormlight.
Yeah.
I keep interchanging those like an idiot, but back to Lift real quick. Someone actually said maybe she'll be more standable or less annoying when she's 10, hopefully, as the series goes on. And I actually want to say that. And that's why I'm very specific when I say I think she's a very well-written character, because there is a chance that she could end up being the best developed character in Stormlight. And I think of Fitz from Realm of the Elderlings. I'm actually about to start Tawny Man this coming week, but I know, he was like, what, 6 when we had Assassin's Apprentice.
Yeah.
And I think he's an old man by the time we get to the final trilogy of Realm of the Elderlings. I feel like Brandon is going to attempt something. I mean, it's a different story, but the same kind of development for a young character. Like, we are literally going to see Lift become a woman, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why I always put the caveat that it's a well-written character, because she might end up being everybody's favorite.
Yeah, and I would be like, I was a Liv stan from the beginning. I think it's just because she likes to eat and I like to eat.
I mean, I do love eating.
Oh man, she just had me with those pancakes and Edge Dancer. Like, her whole deal, I want to eat all 10 pancakes. I'm like, me too.
Yes, absolutely. Oron says, has anyone read Emperor's Soul? That might be my favorite thing by Brando Sando. I completely agree. If you're going off writing, I think it's Brandon Sanderson's best piece of work. I really do.
It's on the list.
Yeah, it's really short.
Elantris broke me off of Brandon Sanderson in the Cosmere for a while.
I don't blame you. Emperor's Soul actually ties into that universe, but it won a Hugo, which we all know Brandon's not, like, literary people don't acknowledge him very often, right? So for him to win the Hugo with that is very impressive. And I thought, when I was reading it, I was like, man, this doesn't feel like Brandon. Like, I feel like Yeah, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised if you read it. What is your favorite character arc growth? And now, is this Ever or is this in Stormlight?
In Stormlight, it's definitely Adeline. Oh man, I could not stand Adeline when I first met him in The Way of Kings, but oh my gosh, by the end of Rhythm of War, he is my man. I would choose him over Kaladin.
Hmm.
Oh, ever. Favorite character arc growth ever.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have to answer the Stormlight one because that would only be it. I'd have to think about that. Ever? See, that's hard to say because I feel like it's going to be Fitz. But if I had to go with who I know and where they are in their arc, without giving away spoilers, let me think about this.
Yeah, this is rough. Favorite character ever. Oh man.
And we're talking specifically arc, right? Like their development, because there's someone I want to pick, but I can't because the books aren't done.
Honestly, that's so.
No, Noelle has it. She has mine that I can't pick. I'm not gonna pick it because it's not over. But Jaime Lannister is the first thing that comes to my mind.
That is an excellent one.
Yeah,
I hated him and went to loving him.
But
favorite arc.
It's not Catherine.
I can tell you one of my top ones is going to be Veritas.
I was literally about to say because I was thinking
Camlin.
Dude, you literally just picked the two out of my brain because Camlin's my favorite character in Faithful and the Fallen.
He gets no respect. No, he doesn't get that much love in the series. People forget about Camlin, and I'm like,
what? Dude, Camlin in the Faithful and the Fallen is top tier character development. I mean, oh my God. So I was thinking about Veritas today, and I know people who haven't read the series, I'm not going to spoil anything. People who have will know what I'm saying. People say Veritas is so unrealistic. He's such an idiot. And I say, you need to go on Netflix. You need to go to HBO. Yes. But you also have to look at the fact that he was essentially in a cult.
Yes.
He was being brainwashed there. And people have this misconception that good, smart people can't be. Yeah.
That's what I loved about this series is these were the positions they were in, and they were on the bad side, but they didn't know it. They were good people influenced by bad people who were good liars.
And that, I'm telling you, that happens way more than people think. And when people say that Veritas is a dumb character, it infuriates me. Because there are PhD people who have been tricked and manipulated by cults that end up ruining their lives because of it. And to say that Veritas is a dumb or bad character because that is absolutely ignorant to what we go through in our real world. I'm getting fired up. I'm getting fired up.
Love it. So, I mean, he was so brave and courageous and honorable and loyal. And when he realized what was going on and his mission with Nathair, I was with him every step of the way. And I held out hope. I was right there with Veritas. I never gave up on.
And then Red comes in with not y'all talk about John Gwynn. I was just reading that. Red Malice this month, but totally did. You broke my heart, Red. I was so excited to see what you thought. The baby, it's good because if you hated it, it would have made me cry. So
yeah, every time I see Malice show up in a TBR video, I'm like watching their channels. Like,
well, it's the weakest book out of the 4. It's still good.
It's just he gets all of the character development out of the way in the first 300 pages. You know everybody.
Yeah, he takes his time and introduces for good reasons because he's a savage.
Goodness, yes, he is. Jerk.
Jaime was butchered by the show. I can't give away spoilers about what that is because my wife is watching and she's watching for the first time. But I'm actually, this is going to get me heat. I actually liked Jaime's ending in the show minus the very last 5 minutes of him on screen. Basically from the time that he leaves, like, Winterfell or whatever. But what he
George
chose,
he's not gonna have that happen in the books.
what he chose to do is completely in line with his character, and I loved it.
I mean,
loved it. It was circular, and I loved it.
Is in line with his character in the beginning of the series.
Folks,
that is not what he's developed into. That will not happen.
Leslie, he shoved a child out of a window.
At the beginning of the series, he changed.
Did he though?
I'm gonna Brienne of Tarth you.
No, I know that's not and again, there's things I would have changed, but if it ends up being circular like Joe Abercrombie's story arc, then I would be okay with it. I think he is going to do that in the books. I think George is going to dump on everybody. Well, if we ever get it, but if he does, I think a lot of the things that people didn't like will happen and be executed differently. I think, but that's just my opinion. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, no matter what, even if he did, George would do it in a way that isn't insulting. So it would be much better than what D&D wrote.
It would be much better than what they did.
Let me ask you this.
They had no creative ability to take that show where it needed to go.
No, I tell people, I know everyone hates D&D and I don't like them at all. But if you want them to adapt something, they're the best two to adapt for television. Like, as
long as they have,
as long as it's done.
Yeah, as long as they have material to work from.
Well, and another thing that D&D did, and this is what is the big cause for concern, because they're about to adapt the 3-body problem. I don't know if that's canceled yet or not, but because that's a whole thing. But they specifically did not want George's help. They said George wants to go finish Wins, is what they said. Well, we know that's not true. They definitely pushed George out the door and had him stop writing. And there was a lot of conflict about Peter Baelish and the way that he was relayed in the Sansa arc. And that is one of the biggest betrayals of a character. And it happened earlier than a lot of the other stuff that happened, right? So D&D, in my opinion, it's their arrogance that ended up costing millions of people.
100%.
But yeah, getting back though to the best character arcs, Camlin, my God,
that was just genius.
I mean, it was brutal. It was very brutal, and
it felt so realistic. It was so authentic how it happened.
We got to do a discussion about Camlin. We should really do a very short discussion and post it, because I have a very specific scene I'm thinking of that John Gwynn wrote. And it's whenever I'd said there was a scene with Camlin and a romantic interest, and there was a decision that had to be made. And I didn't even consider this decision because it would have been so selfless and heartbreaking that the character ended up making that affected Camlin for the rest of his existence in the series. As soon as that moment happened, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I think I do.
I could tell you after. As soon as that moment happened, I said, that's it. John Gwynn is top 3. It was a plot decision that not a lot of people would have made. I didn't even see it coming, and it was right in front of me the whole time. Thought it was beautiful. It's literally in my head one of the best scenes ever written. So
I would reread the series just to experience his arc again. But I mean, of course, I'll get all the other good ones too.
Yeah, that's a series I could reread. Aaron from Attack on Titan is one of my favorite arcs of all time. I know who Aaron is because I've watched a little bit of the show, but I'm excited to get into that manga.
Yeah, that show is good.
What is a fantasy series, Leslie, that you have not read that's popular that you're excited to get to?
I feel like I have read most of I guess Mistborn. I've not read any of those. That seems to be pretty popular.
Yeah, people like it.
But I mean, my excitement was killed by Elantris.
I can't speak to Elantris. I like Stormlight much more than this. Mistborn book 1, I really, really liked. It's going to be a little harder for you, because it was written before Stormlight. Oh, technically Way of
Yeah.
Kings was written before it all, but
Yeah.
whatever. There's definitely a difference in the writing quality, in my opinion. So I think you'll see that, though. By book 3, he does get a little bit better. But Mistborn's a good pick. I mean, a lot of people love Mistborn. I mean, I know there's people in the chat that think I'm an idiot because I didn't love it. But a lot of people really enjoy it, and there's definitely a lot of charm to it. The best magic system he has by far. That'll be exciting to hear your thoughts on that. Mine's Red Rising, without a doubt. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
That's science fiction, though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if we went with fantasy, probably Malazan, because of how epic it's going to be. I am cautiously optimistic that I'll enjoy it, but I'm not sure because I know what kind of stories I like, and I'm worried. I might not be up for it, but we'll see. I mean, it's coming this year.
My recommendation: 1 chapter per day.
See, I was thinking about this. So to give you a backstory, I read A Song of Ice and Fire a chapter at a time. Best reading experience of my life. I was thinking about doing this with Kingskiller Chronicles as well. I was thinking because I don't think I might review it, but I'm not going to make any content about it because just go to Captured in Words. So he does it all and he's amazing.
Yeah.
So I would mention it on a wrap up or something. I don't know if I do a dedicated book review, but I was thinking about doing a chapter at a time for Name of the Wind, and I really thought about Malazan. If I didn't want to get involved in the community, super hardcore, I think I would do that. But maybe I should anyways.
It's so complex and so much happens per chapter that it just reading it 1 chapter at a time just really helps me just mull over everything and just soak it all in. Oh,
so that must have taken you a while to get through then.
It did. It took me about a month. And but Erickson really writes in a way that readers you got to pay attention. You are going to be so rewarded. The payoff is freaking huge.
That's exciting.
You've got, and I read Sanderson and Jordan and Terry Goodkind. I mean, Tolkien. I've read all of these guys. I've grown up reading all of these guys. Malazan is a breath of fresh air because there is no hand holding. There really isn't. And it's nice. It's nice to be responsible, so to speak.
Yeah. I'm you're
responsible.
Right.
And there's so many mysteries. There's so many characters and just plot lines. And what I really love is it's a series, but he gives the books an ending that satisfies you. So you don't immediately say, oh, well, I need the next one right now. I need to know what happens. You get a very satisfied ending. So
you might have just sold me.
You'll like it. I really think you're going to like it.
And maybe a book a month is a good pace while I can read other things.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know what? You might be on to something, Lezlie. You might just be on to something. I like it. I like that a lot. Another series that I'm really excited for, and it might be one I'm more excited for than Malazan, is The 5 Warrior Angels by Brian Lee Durfee. I'm telling you, everything I know. He's on BookTube.
Yes. I have the first one.
I have both.
Got to get to it.
I have both, and knowing that one, it has similar themes to Faithful and the Fallen, and then I've heard his writing is gorgeous. I've heard it's like Tad Williams type writing, and I love Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn.
Yeah.
So you know what? I think I might be a little bit more excited for 5 Warrior Angels just because I know it's going to be a hit. I know I'm at least going to enjoy the base of it, right? And I have a feeling it's going to be a big hit with me. I'm also very excited for the last King of Ostenard, which is Tad Williams' sequel trilogy to Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, which is getting wrapped up in early 2022.
I've got to get started on Tad Williams.
Yes, you do. Oh, you're going to love him.
I've been listening to you about him, and I'm like, all right.
I mean, you're so well read that I feel like you are going to pick up on a lot of the things that he did that influenced the entire genre. Patrick Rufus, or is it Rufus?
I say Rufus.
Yeah, I think it is Rothfuss. So Patrick Rothfuss, George, all these people have been influenced by Tad, and you're gonna pick up on all of it.
Oh,
Oh,
that's exciting.
that is so exciting. Get through Dragonbone Chair. It's a little bit slower. I'm telling you, the sequel and then the ending of the trilogy is so good. And then we have the sequel trilogy coming. It's so exciting.
Oh man.
Oh, I love me some Tad. Have you read Name of the Wind? Have you read Kingskeller?
I haven't. I have it on my shelf to get to.
Yeah.
I haven't been in a rush because it's not
Right.
completed,
Yeah.
and so I've just been putting other things ahead of it. But
Same.
it's gonna happen.
I've been just staring at it lately. And I've basically said, I said, oh, whenever Doors of Stone gets, released, I'll check it out. Or when I run out of things to do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I picked up that 10-year anniversary edition, and I've just been sitting there looking at it.
Send it to me. It's so beautiful. It is the most beautiful book.
It's gorgeous. And it's sitting on I did a book haul. I got Misery. I bought Shadow of the Gods because it was there, even though I already read it. And then I got that. And it's just been sitting on my dining room table. And I'm just, I'm reading through Dark Tower right now. I just finished book 4, and I'm waiting to start Tawny Man on the 5th of May because I'm reading Grievar's Blood right now. But I'm kind of wanting like real juicy fantasy. You know what I mean? Because Robin Hobb is
it is amazing.
That's what I'm saying. Like Robin Hobb is definitely like she builds into her magic, and I really love that. So don't get trust me, everyone listening. I love everything Robin Hobb does. I'm a huge stan for her. And then Dark Tower is like its own fantasy. I mean, it is just king at the most king.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. And I've just been kind of wanting like a nice in stop. Yep. And hearing some fantasy tales,
and traditional ones.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at Name of the Wind on my table, and I'm like, maybe it's time.
It's so beautiful.
It's a good looking book, and I'm also extraordinarily excited to see how his prose goes because I've heard he's one of the very best, and I love good prose.
I know I'm gonna love it. Absolutely know I'm gonna love it.
Yeah. How far are you in the realm of the Elderlings?
So not very far. Not very far. So I read Assassin's Apprentice last year. That was my first Hobb, and it was a read along that I did. And being character driven, that book was heartbreaking. Also, I don't care what you do to the people, but when you go to hurting animals, if you're writing a battle scene and you get graphic about a horse being killed, runs into spears and dies, and the sounds it makes, like that hurts me.
Yeah, it's rough.
Kill the people, leave the animals alone.
Oh, it's rough.
And so Nosy. Okay. I cried. And my heart just got broken and crushed and ripped out. And then at the end, we find, we get reunited, right? And that repaired my heart. That mended. I had Band-Aids on it. And then, you know what happens? I threw that. I am about my books, right?
Your treasures.
I threw. I launched. I was in bed reading at this point with it, and I threw it out of the room, and it went down the hall. And like my husband kind of like barely sticks his head around the door. He's like, "Are you okay?"
Oh my god!
I was so livid. I hate read like the last 150 pages of that book. I was so mad, and I was done with her at that point. It was a beautiful prose, beautiful story. I loved everything about it except, and I was done with her. Well, one thing led to another. I ended up reading Ship of Magic because of the Secret Santa thing that I did, and it's one of Andy Smith's favorite books. So I read. There was just a couple I had to pick from, so I chose that one. And that one, 25% of the way in, it was a 5-star read. She was at the table of favorite fantasy authors ever, and I was sold. So I'm gonna go back and finish Farseer and then finish out the Realm of the Elderlings.
So you haven't finished Live Ship yet, right?
Nope, not yet.
Okay. We're talking about character arcs, and honestly, now that I'm sitting here and I feel terrible for not even,
Wintro.
Malta might be one of the best character arcs, and Kenneth. Those are two of the best character arcs of all time for sure.
Malta. I would just, if I was Ronica and I owed those people blood or money, I would be like, here, take this one.
I have
I think she's gonna be important.
Oh my God!
Sure do not like her.
I'm telling you, I hated her more than any other. I hated her more than Kyle. I mean, like, not really. That's not true. I'm being
I hate Kyle more. I just want to beat Malta.
I didn't like Ken. I love Kenneth as a character, but I'm rooting against Kenneth. I hate Kyle. And then we're talking about Ship of Magic, right?
Yeah.
And I could not stand Malta. By the last book, I would die for Malta, as Chris Bookish Cauldron said in my chat one week. I would die for Malta, dude. Oh my God, I can't wait for you to read these. Also, to this day, right now, what is it? April 30th, 2021. Mm-hmm. The best book I've read in 2021 was Royal Assassin.
Wow.
Royal Assassin has one of the best endings of any book. I can't wait for you to read it. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be in the next coming months that I get back to them because I wanted to get to I wanted to finish some stuff, do some cleanup, and then get to where I can just roll forward in that series and keep going.
Yeah.
But there's so much to love about that series.
Good. It's so
like every time I was sold on, oh, I love this so much. This is going to be a favorite book. And then she would introduce a new element. And I'm like, oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And there's so many things I want to know more about. Just so interesting.
I have my Mad Ship and Ship of Destiny reviews filmed, so I just need to edit them and put them up. And I end up doing B-roll, and I never ever do B-roll. I did B-roll for my Ship of Destiny one because I forgot to talk about Malta, and I was like, skirt, like, hold up, I got to stop the presses. So if you're watching this and you're a big fan of Robin Hobb, I will have Mad Ship and Ship of Destiny reviews out. I've already finished the trilogy, earlier in the month, and I'm getting the Tawny Man, and I'm just so excited to get back with Fitz. I'm so excited that you haven't read Royal Assassin because I wish I could read it again. I really do, for the first time.
Yeah.
I'll be very curious to see what you think. I would love to talk to you after you read that, because there's aspects of that book that people don't like that I really, really like. So it'll be interesting. I'll be excited to see your thoughts.
Well, out of the Farseer trilogy, from what I've read so far, the Fool is my favorite character.
Yep. Out of everything I've read, the Fool is my favorite.
Yeah,
that's all I'll say.
He was very interesting to me. I need to know more about him.
You immediately are like, got to pay attention here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Robin Hobb signposts that stuff without being insulting, and I love it. Her character development. She's the best character writer in fantasy. She's like, Gwen has done something special with Gamlen, and even Corbin, all of his characters. He's great. He's one of the best. People will put, I don't know necessarily about Malazan, but like, for instance, Joe Abercrombie, right? Character driven, great. I love some of the First Law characters, but when I literally sit down and look at how characters grow, Robin Hobb does it better than anybody I've ever seen. I mean, dude, oh God, yes. When you read Live Ships, we got to talk.
Man, I've got to get back to it. And I'm probably going to have to reread Ship of Magic. I just loved it so much. Yes,
why not?
Loved Paragon.
Paragon is definitely in the top 3 characters in Live Ship.
And what was the old lady ship's name that was helping?
Althea?
Althea.
Or Althea. I don't know. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head.
Ophelia.
I feel you. It's like, I feel you.
Yeah.
she was so funny, like very catty, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah,
reminds me of like my grandma when she go to the senior center and like kind of like gossip with the other grandmas. I loved it. Ophelia, yeah,
she was amazing.
Man, Live Ship is something special. It really is. Well, we're about 2 hours. I'm not going to take up the rest of your Friday because I could talk all night. This has been a pleasure, and it's been really fun.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. And, I'm glad that everyone here has stuck with us through these 2 hours. I love doing this. I love bringing on people that I have, things in common with, and sometimes we have opposing opinions, and it's still fun. But I just love this community, and I'm very fortunate to have people like you, Lezlie, that want to come on and just talk to me on a Friday night when you could be doing, anything else. So I appreciate
I've
it.
got a ton of live shows this weekend, but when
Yeah.
you messaged me about it, I was like, oh, that no question. I was watching the series, I'm like, man, I hope he asked me to do that one day.
Well, there you go. I'm glad to have you on, and you'll definitely be back. Why don't you tell
Episode
everybody
number
the
4. I'm in the top 5.
4? May the 4 be with you, right?
That's right.
I liked your Star Wars video, by the way, when you dressed up like Rey.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was cool.
I can't wait. I'm also getting a Star Wars tattoo on May the 4th. So
what are you getting? What are you getting tattooed?
So I'm getting Chip and Dale. Chip is gonna have Han Solo jacket on and the blaster, and of course Dale's gonna be Chewie with the bandolier. They're gonna be standing on a little miniature Millennium Falcon, and Spaceship Earth from Epcot is going to be the Death Star.
Are you gonna do like a reveal on your channel of your new tattoo?
Probably.
You really should.
I'll think of something.
You really should. I think that's awesome.
I might even do a time lapse of it. We'll see.
Oh, that would be really cool. That would be dope. Why don't you tell the people where they can find you live, because you're going to be doing some other live streams, and some of them sound really interesting. So why don't you tell the people where you're going to be?
So the 2 that I have left this weekend will be Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern. We will be talking about the First Law trilogy as a whole. Also, The Last Argument of Kings. We wrapped up that little read along. And then later that evening, I will be a guest on Drew's book reviews. We're going to do the Netflix book tag. It's going to be a bunch of us booktubers, some smaller channels. So they asked me if I would come do that with them, and I said, sure. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I know Andrew is going to be there. He was in the chat earlier from Andrew's Wizardly Read. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And if you've been watching the stream and you're wondering, where you can find Lezlie, that's at the Nerdy Narrative, which you can find down in the description. Should be tagged down there. And if I forgot to do it, which I don't think I did, but you can also search the Nerdy Narrative. Make sure to go throw Lezlie a sub. Lezlie is so authentic and has one of the best aesthetic shots on BookTube, I think. Just a beautiful setup, thanks to her husband.
Yeah. Chris is responsible for that.
Yes, but her takes on books and her reviews, I always find insightful. She's led me to find some good reads, and I even have, Only Good Indians. Is that the right title? Yes. So I have that on my shelf that I got to read this October with her. But this is one of the places I get my recommends. So I think you would really enjoy her channel. Make sure to subscribe and support her there. And I believe she has a Patreon as well. So Lezlie, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was very much fun.
Yes, this was a blast. And thank everyone in the chat, everyone that's taken their time out their Friday night to watch this. I really appreciate it. And it means the world to me just to be able to have friends here to talk and to get along with and build this community up. So thank you so much. And this is going to be the end of episode 4. I don't know if we'll be back next week. We might take a week off. I'll see. I might start doing this every other week just to not tire out the audience, but we'll see. Let me know down in the comments in this video or on the community tab what you guys want to see. But again, be safe, be well, and thank you again for spending time with me. And I will catch you real soon. And remember to always keep turning the page.
Yep. Good night.
Bye.